there's certainly plants that they'll utilize at times of the year for certain things. So like the tree he's standing under now, that's a marula tree, and that marula tree will be packed with fruits in February, and those fruits are very, very nutritious for an elephant, and you'll find elephants go after those heavily because there's lots of sugars and things that they don't get out of their general diet. And so it just depends on the time of the year what kind of trees that they'll make use of, but there's no one specific plant that is the most nutritious plant out here. There is very many different sort of nutrient values to different plants that we have, and that's why the animals tend to be mixed feeders. They don't just feed of one specific type of food. You'll find that the sort of buffalo will eat different types of grass, if they're a grazer, different types of grass. If they're browsers, different types of leaves. Now let's see if he'll be able to reach up. There we go. Isn't that cool? Just shows you how high they can reach. Now, that is very, very tall. Now, it's probably easily, you could stack 2 or 3 cars on top of each other and you still wouldn't reach where that elephant is reaching with his trunk. Well done. You've just showered yourself with leaves though. Let's see, maybe he might even go onto his back legs. Sometimes they do it. Let's see. Come on, you can get it. He's trying, but not quite figured it out yet. Now, in some parts of the world, in particular in parts of Zimbabwe where they get these massive anna trees, you'll actually find that the elephants will go onto their back legs. So they'll lift up on their back legs and they stand up straight so that they can reach the branches that otherwise wouldn't be able to reach. So I was hoping he was going to do it for us, but it seems like it's maybe a little bit of a stretch too far. The other reason is that there's so much food out here that he actually doesn't have to worry too much about stretching for one branch of a marula. Let's see now if he's going to try again. He's kind of crunched down that branch. Let's see. No, I think he's decided those are out of reach, and so he's now going to carry on. Alright, let's try to see if we can't keep up with him a little bit. Now, he is going through a thicket, but he is slowly heading towards Chitwa Dam. So what I'm going to try to do is loop around him and see if he doesn't pop out that side. And while we do that, let's go across to James Henry, who's busy doing something with his Coke bottle, and I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure it's going to make happiness very happy.
I'm not sure that it will make happiness very happy. I don't know that she... Herbert assures me that this is good, clean, drinkable water. I'm not sure I'd put it in my mouth. Well, if I was desperate, I might. But what we've done is we've gone to an elephant hole, and Herbert has instructed me on how to clear the originally dirty water out. And basically you just pull it all out and then wait for the new water to seep in. And it's about as clean as that. Now, I suspect that you could make it much cleaner if you were like Steph and you were prepared to filter it through your sock, which I'm inescapably not prepared to do, on account of the fact that the socks I'm wearing now I wore yesterday. And it's not because I'm disgusting everybody, it's because I packed all my other socks. So I'm not going to try and filter them through my socks. LJK, you're wondering what happiness will do with the water. I'm slightly confused about that myself. I asked her and she became quite conspiratorial. I suspect that she's going to use it for some sort of traditional medicine. That is my guess. What do you think, Herbie? Maybe. I would still boil this if I was going to. Just the colour that's slightly off-putting. And so that's it. Now, you could make it cleaner, I'm pretty sure, by filtering it. You could filter it through some cloth. You would make it slightly cleaner than this. You could... What else could you do? I suppose you could evaporate it, I suppose. But it does, as Louise says, look like homemade ginger beer. Well, happiness, I've done my task for you today. And I hope that you will not, look at me askance when I hand you this thing that looks like homemade ginger beer. The Sky, you say I should drink some. Herbert, do you think I should drink some?
Yeah.
It's a bitter. It's got a bit of a bitter taste to it. But it should be fine. We really can drink the water like that, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. Herbert, if I get sick on the aeroplane tonight, you will be in big trouble. Now, Craig found something else through here that he said was going to be our next segment. Craig, would you like to tell me what it was? Wops. Vicious man-eating wops. This is what my friends and I, when I was little, used to refer to as a carrot-tipped wasp. And what it is one of the spider hunters. No, sorry, not a spider hunter, it's a caterpillar hunter. And as a caterpillar hunter, it is also a potter wasp. It will make a mud nest with chambers in it. And in those chambers, it will place dead caterpillars. And you can see its pulsing abdomen. And luckily, it too is too cold to move right now. Yeah, it'll be much too cold to move. And they can sting quite badly. I've been stung by one of these things before. It's very painful. It doesn't last long. I mean, it lasts sort of 10-15 minutes and then it will go away again. But the actual pain is quite bad. Craig, if you could stop shaking the branch on which this rather vicious Hymenoptera is sitting, that would be great. You've heard the old adage, what is it? The old adage that I've now forgotten. Kicking the hornet's nest. Well, that's pretty much what you're doing right now. Right, update on those lion tracks, I'm afraid, is that they've gone north over the boundary. Somebody's picked them up on Biffle's Hook, so I'm afraid I don't think we're going to find any lions. We'll carry on towards the direction they were going, but I'm pretty sure that the lion tracks that they found, the 2 lionesses that they found north on Biffle's Hook, are not going to be seen by us, unfortunately. Ooh, I nearly head-butted that thing. Right, shall we carry on? Craig, would you like some water? Are you sure? It's really good. Are you sure you don't want any? Adele, you said the wasps in South Africa look like they've been eating radioactive waste because they're all so big. Adele, they're not all that big, you know. It's just the ones that we get on camera tend to be much bigger. But, you know, the fig wasps, for example, will be sort of that size, 1/4 of an inch. And you can get even smaller ones than that around here. It's just the ones that we managed to find to put on camera that look so very large. And that's a particularly impressive specimen, that one, that potter wasp there. And I don't know if you've ever watched them making their nests or making their little pottery. It is really, it's just, it beggars belief to think that something with such a rudimentary neurological system and rudimentary brain could create something of such artistic perfection, and then of course place something so dastardly as a paralyzed caterpillar therein. That's very sort of gives me mixed feelings, one of admiration and one of slight disgust. Fluffy, you say, what is the worst thing that I have had? Do you mean in terms of meals, illnesses, injuries? Oh, the worst sting that I've had. The worst sting that I've had was probably from one of those things. I was set upon once, and I've told this story many times on the golf course, by a number of paper wasps or hornets, and I wasn't stung only once. I was stung probably 50 times on the top of my, well, as you've seen, some of you, balding head. And they stung repeatedly because I knocked over the proverbial hornet's nest and they all just swarmed. All I heard was zzz, and then I felt like someone had poured acid onto the top of my head. Anyway, after literally 20 minutes, it was absolutely fine. It didn't hurt at all and there was no allergic reaction. But that was a very unpleasant attack. But when I was stung by one of those things, I seem to remember it being the most severe stinging pain that I've had before. That's from one of those wasps. Oh, no, you know what was much worse was a scorpion. I got nicked by a scorpion on the elbow in the tent one day. Tent is a dangerous place, everybody. It's not that I'm not avoiding danger by being in the tent. In fact, I think that's probably the worst injury I've ever had in the bush, was in the tent. And a olivaceous scorpion stung me on my elbow. And the pain was not particularly severe. It was sore. I mean, it wasn't so sore that I couldn't function, but it was very painful. But then it just went on. It just lasted for, I don't know, probably lasted 3 hours or so. And so that was definitely the worst sting. It wasn't dreadfully painful for 3 hours, but it was very uncomfortable for 3 hours or so, after which it was fine. The lion tracks continue straight up this road, and they must have been moving here, I suspect, probably just before dawn. So I think they probably came up here around about dawn and passed by Buffelshoek Dam, had a drink of water, it looks to me about as clean as this water, and then headed into Buffelshoek. I do hope I don't get some form of amoebic dysentery from this lot. I'm very upset if I do. I'll take some probiotics when I get home. Alrighty. Then we can have a look at this plant here, Hibiscus micrantha. You can see that it is starting to look a little sad and tired. All of its seeds have gone, and they will be sitting in amongst the seed litter around here. And what I'm constantly reminded of when I see these plants, I'm constantly reminded of the fact that they make hundreds of thousands, well, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but certainly thousands of seeds that will never see the light of day. If you consider this plant here, it's probably made, oh goodness knows how many seeds, and they've all gone off into the air, and most of them will never form a plant as beautiful as this one here. Isn't that cool? Alright, I'm being sung at the moment by a white-browed scrub robin. I'll see if I can find it, and while I do that, Tristan apparently is at the water.
Well, not just yet, James. I'm getting there, slowly but surely. Just taking a very peaceful drive there and waiting for our elephant bull, because we know he's going to take a while to get down to the water. So we've been checking around to see if there's not any sign of Tundi and Tumba. And we had a vulture's nest that I was showing Ferg that I used to see every single day at Chitwa, and watched multiple different chicks actually being raised out of that nest, which was very cool. And so they use it every single year, and now's the time that they'll start nesting. So they'll start laying their eggs shortly, and those eggs will be incubated for about 44 days before they hatch, and then those chicks will be nest bound for about 180 days. So it's a very long period of time that you'll find for the vultures to try and sort of sort out and to try and kind of keep those chicks alive. So it's quite an interesting process to watch. Now, let's see if we go down towards the dam, if our bull elephant hasn't caught up with us and is not this side somewhere. I'm hoping for James's sake that after drinking that water his stomach holds up, because otherwise a flight to Italy, which is where he's off to, is going to be should that play up with his stomach. So maybe we should give him a parting gift of some Imodium on his flight out. That would be probably very useful should that happen. There's nothing worse than being on a long flight and not feeling well, so hopefully that's not going to be the case. Now, let's see if Ellie has not arrived yet. I don't know if he will have. He was kind of sticking it out and feeding, so I don't see him yet, and it's still a long way to go. But Chitwa Dam has always got something at it, so we might as well go and have a look and see what we can see. Maybe we'll see a crocodile lying out on the bank sunning itself, or a fish eagle, or some hippos. I can see a fish eagle already, Ferg. We've got a fish eagle. Unfortunately, we've got the light on the wrong side too. Yeah. Now, Chitwa Dam in the mornings is very, very pretty, except that the sun shines directly into your eyes. Not so much now in winter, it tends to shift north a little bit, but in summer it comes right up over the dam. let's see what we can find. There's our Egyptian geese family, so we can catch up with them. That's going to be good. I just want to try and get up on the damn wall here, because otherwise we might lose signal. Hold on, Ferg. Signal is stable. There we go. So good. And there is our Egyptian geese family. Can't believe how big the chicks have gotten. They've grown quite a bit already. They're much larger than what they were sort of a week or two ago. It's amazing how quick these chicks actually do grow. It's very cool to see them sort of expanding in size as the days go by. And you can see they love this sort of corner section where we are now, where they can sit and filter feed. They go through all this algae and they can find the food that they need. Now, I know during the TV shows, which is when we first found them, there was apparently 8 chicks. So how many we got left there? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's still 6, which is good. I mean, the other day when I was here about a week ago, there were 6 of them. So the fact that there's still 6 chicks is absolutely wonderful. So well done, parents. You've done a sterling effort, because Chitwa Dam is fraught with danger. There is catfish, there are fish eagles, there are martial eagles, there's crocodiles, and there's all kinds of threats in this area. So, Safi, you want to know what my favorite bird is? Well, my favorite bird is called a crowned eagle. For some reason, there's something about them that I just like. They are these big, bulky eagles. They fly around in the forest, and they've got massive talons that they'll use to hunt small mammals. So they're a big hunter of things like monkeys and small antelope species like a duiker. So they really are just sort of the most bulky and powerful of our eagles in terms of its sort of weight to power ratio. And they're also pretty cool looking birds. They've got this sort of quite mean looking face, and they almost look quite intimidating, and that's why I like them. So the fact that they can survive in those forested areas as a big eagle is pretty impressive. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like, because we have it here in the book. So when Ferg comes back to me, I'll show you just now. But look at the little chicks, aren't they cute? Yes, good morning to you, hippos. Isn't that cool? There you go. The hippos just said good morning to everybody. So they're calling from varying parts of the dam. It was very cool indeed. Now, back to our crowned eagle. Now that the cacophony of hippos is quietened down, this is the crowned eagle at the bottom here. So you can see it's got the most sort of these big, powerful head with a big, bulky beak, and then a large sort of body that comes down, and massive feet with very long talons. These guys are able to deliver serious crushing blows to any sort of mammal that they go after. And then on the underside, when they're flying, they have this beautiful red sort of rusty coloration on their wings and that barred tail, and they're just such a beautiful bird. And it reminds me of my childhood, because we used to see these nesting in an area that my grandparents used to live in. Every day we used to see them flying over, and we saw them catching all kinds of different species of mammals, and it was just sort of fond memories, and that's why they are really my favorite bird. So very cool one to see. And then a close second would be this guy on top, which is the black eagle. So this bird on top here, or Verreaux's eagle is what it's called now. It used to be called a black eagle. It's got that jet black wings with that white sort of saddle on the back, and they occur more in sort of mountainous areas, and they use hills a lot. So they'll sit on top of a mountain, and then they fly down and grab varying small mammals like dassies and rodents and hares and those kind of things. So also just a very pretty eagle. So those are my 2 favorites in terms of the eagle species. I've got 1 or 2 other birds that I really like more because of colors and things like that, but those are definitely crowned eagle is definitely my favorite bird. Right, let's see if we can't spot anything else at Chitwa Dam. It's a little bit difficult because we're a bit sort of silhouetted and staring straight into the sun, and the sun is hitting the water and kind of blinding us at the angle that we're sitting at. So I do apologize if my eyes are watering. It's not because I am crying for any emotional reason. It is just because of the sun glaring in our eyes at this stage. For other than the sort of hippos making a noise, I can't see any crocs. Oh, there's the crocodile is. Can you see it, Ferg? On the other bank there. So it's just to the left of that tree on the edge of the water. Yeah, so a little bit more in there somewhere. It's going to be difficult to see it because of the light that we've got. So Ferg's still getting used to his cameras. We've got new cameras on the vehicles, so we're still trying to get used to them and the sort of way that they work. Now, to the right a bit, Ferg.
Right here.
Yeah, there we go. There's Vlad. There we go. Now, Vlad seems to be doing his usual trick and having a nice sort of sunning session in the mornings, getting that body temperature up so it's able to then start moving around and feeding. You'll often find the crocodiles out in the mornings like this just to warm up. You can imagine how cold it must be in that water, and so being a cold-blooded animal, you need the power of the sun's rays to be able to warm up. And his mouth is not open yet, which means he's not hot. As soon as he starts getting too hot, you'll find the mouth will open and they can then start to practice goulash flutter. Now Ferg, I don't know if you can come back here because we've got a very interesting character on our dashboard that's bouncing around all over the place and looks like he's doing a bit of a dance. No, don't go off now because now Ferg's coming. Oh, it just went off. Sorry Ferg. I've sold you down. But it was a spider that was here and it was bouncing around and legs were going all over the place. And actually I see some spider web there. And it was doing all kinds of things. Now I don't know where it's gone. Where have you gone? Hopefully it will come back, but it went over the edge and hopefully it didn't jump off and have a nasty fall and hurt itself, but I don't think so. Spiders are very clever. They normally attach some sort of a web somewhere to be able to survive. But now I don't see it anywhere here, so I think it has gone off on the front there. And so while we kind of scan around Chitwa Dam and see if we can't find a better views and not get blinded by the sun, let's go across to James Henry, who hopefully will not get blinded by a tree to the eye as he bashes about in the thicket of Juma.
I've got myself in amongst some wonderfully soft grass here, in the shade of a Diospirus mespilliformes tree, aka jackalberry of course. And the point of this little segment is to tell you, or to show you, an area that you don't normally see. And you may say to yourself, but you know, some of us have been driving around Juma for years. What do you mean we don't normally see it? Well, you don't. And you don't because the vehicles have no signal under this particular tree, and it's one of my very favourite places in Juma because it's just so thick and lush, and yet you can see it open, the lovely big shady trees, and so that's why I'm lying in this grass underneath this Diospirus mespilliformes or jackalberry tree. And it's not uncomfortable at all. I'm just trying to think if there are any spikes sticking into me or any insects crawling onto me. There are probably many kinds of parasites that I could pick up from the grass here, but I must say it feels very nice to lie in it. Craig, you can't lie in it, of course, because you're working at the moment. Now, Jen in Minnesota, we've been asked this a few times as well, and it's one of these questions that is very difficult to answer. You say, what will I miss the most about being at Juma? Well, I shall miss our characters, obviously. The leopards, Shongilai and Hosanar mostly, because of course they are our, well, they're our go-to basically. We've watched them since the day they were born, so I'll miss them. I don't think I'm going to miss the Nkuhumas terribly, I have to tell you, because they've been so reticent about showing themselves to us for the last 2 months. I've kind of, I feel detached from them at the moment, which is I will definitely miss the walks, because we're not allowed to walk there at the moment. I'm not sure if we will, maybe at one stage. So I shall miss that a lot. I really have enjoyed the fact that we have, you know, when I started 2 years ago, we did these bushwalks maybe once a month or twice a month every so often, and it was only for TV shows and leading up to TV shows. It wasn't on a daily basis. And it's just been a real pleasure to do this, you know, once every 3 times we go out for the last few months. I've really enjoyed that. It just gives a real different feel to the wild. It's good to stretch your legs, to feel the grass brushing over your legs, to get pricked by a thorn every so often, to touch the leaves. You don't have the noise of the engine, so you smell so much more, you hear so much more. So I'll miss that hugely. Then I suppose I will also miss the people from here. You know, Herbie's not coming with us, Tristan's not coming with us, Batman's not coming with us. Sorry about that, Batters. Well, there are a number of others, and I'm not going to name them all, of course. Maybe I should quickly name them all, otherwise I'll be insulted. Taylor's not coming with us at this stage. Who else? Sebastian, Fergus, Megan, Alice, Chantel, Anwar, Happiness, Mama Z, one more, Amanda, I believe. None of them coming with us this time round. But hopefully, I don't suppose everybody will go up eventually, but most people will eventually go up there, especially the crew of presenters and cameramen. They will definitely make it up to the Mara, I think, sooner or later. So I will miss all of them terribly much. And you know, somebody asked Tristan last night, there's a spider in there somewhere, Craig, if you can find it, it's microscopic. Somebody asked Tristan last night if we fight in camp, you know, if the presenters box each other sometimes, you know, if there's any conflict in it. I've been constantly amazed since I began working here about how little conflict that there has been amongst the crew. And so we all really rather get on with each other quite well. And because of that, I shall miss everybody here. Okay, I found a fly, but a fly is just simply not as entertaining as an elephant in the Mara.
Lou? Oh, welcome. Who can spot the animal? Now, there are 2 animals in that shot, and they're quite big normally and quite easy to spot, and that just gives you an idea of the size of the Olololo escarpment. So, Davy, can you go wider still? So, there we go. There's the top of the escarpment, and you've got some boulders and stuff around, and then we've got a female elephant and her calf feeding just below a rocky outcrop with a fig tree on it. Isn't that just too spectacular for words? Now, this is an area that we haven't spent too much time in yet. This is also part of the Sausage Pride's territory, so we thought we would have a meander along the base of the Olololo escarpment to see if we could find any other members of the Lion Pride, or of course anything else. And we've got a lovely cow and calf. Now, it is very, very beautiful here. And I'm not sure whether I've got comms. Just give me a second. Okay, I think I've got it all fixed. Isn't this too wonderful? Quite windy today. I'm also hoping we get some interesting bird species along here. And I can hear everything perfectly now. So we've got comms with final control again. So of course, if we go look higher up the escarpment, Dave, you can see there's some forests, and of course we're going to get a whole host of different bird species in there. In some areas, those forests come right down to where we are, so we're going to be looking very, very carefully. Isn't this just too magical? Now, a very exciting story. That I saw a bird that has been eluding me for about 15 years on this escarpment, and it is the blue swallow. And it's a very rare bird. There's estimated between 1,500 and 4,000 left in the wild. And what happens is they nest. There's a couple of
pairs in South Africa and in Swaziland, and then the two really big populations of them are in Zambia and southern Tanzania. Now, those Zambian and southern Tanzanian birds, a lot of them migrate to the north of Lake Victoria to feed when out of breeding season. And then what happens is they slowly make their way back down to their breeding grounds, but they stop off in places to collect insects and eat on their long migration. Now, this is the first record was from about 2 weeks before we arrived of blue swallows along this escarpment area here. And Dave and I went down to that area and we actually managed to find 4 of them. And then Tyler, who's the general manager of Angama, he managed to find another 4 in another area. So there's always a chance, who knows, will we keep our eyes open, we might even find the very rare blue swallow in this area. So what happens is they generally quite like to perch on quite small things like that dead tree over there near the elephants. So we're always just keeping our eye out, and with this incredible wind we've got, they tend to swoop very fast. So we've got to keep our eyes carefully peeled, and who knows, maybe we'll find a leopard or 2 along the escarpment. And we've just got a Cape turtle dove flying past. That's not a rare bird, but also as the wind picks up, it's not great for birding, but we will do our best. And also, once we've got our other vehicles down, I don't have to pop in and out, I'm sure we're going to be able to see quite a few more birds. Oh, Fluffy, that is a difficult question. What is my favorite bird call? Ooh, now I've got to think. I've got a few favorite bird calls. I think the Hugulins, or white-browed robin, is definitely one of my favorite bird calls. And then the great blue turaco is also another one of my favorites. That sort of gawk, gawk, but I can't do it nicely. But yeah, I'd say those are probably my 2 favorites. I've probably got 100 favorites if I think about it for too long, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to go with the 2. Now remember, hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask us any questions, like Fluffy just did, and we would love to hear from you. And we are live from the Masai Mara in Kenya, right below the exquisite Ololo escarpment. Our camp is high up on the escarpment, but further to the north, so we do have wonderful vistas from camp. Now Dan is wondering, do we get any African grey parrots here? Dan, we do not. Oh, hang on, Darby, there's something flying in. Let's just see where it lands. Now, there are a couple of starlings that I really want to show you, and it's disappeared into the grass. There's a particular starling called a superb starling, which is superbly beautiful. I'm hoping this is a good area for them. We'll keep an eye out. But Dan was wondering about African grey parrots. You got something? It flew away. Where are you looking? Oh, dear. Oh, it's a yellow-throated longclaw. Well spotted, Dave. That should be a new bird species for a lot of people. Now, a yellow-throated longclaw. They're one of the more common grassland species you get here. Dan, I will get back to the parrots, but while we have a longclaw... Oh, we've got a starling incoming. He's going to land... He's going to chase the longclaw off. But unfortunately, it is not the superb starling it is. Is it? It's so difficult in that dark. We can't really see. It's just it's a starling. We'll leave it at that for now. But Dan was wondering about African grey parrots, and we don't get any of them here. They are forest species, and as you can see, this is very much an open savanna. Oh, I can hear a testicular calling, but in the grass somewhere. Jane is wondering, could I describe what the dawn chorus is like in the Mara? And it is dominated by the white-browed robin chat, which has got one of the most beautiful calls, and it is definitely, as I said, one of my favorite calls. It is exquisite. I suggest you look it up. Oh, what have we got here? It looks like a little flycatcher. Now, which flycatcher? Now, that is a different question. Watch, my head might pop through. I'm sorry, I just need to get my binoculars. No, I missed. Is it a flycatcher? No, it's not. What have we got here? Mystery bird. Oh, very interesting. See the very yellow feet? It actually looks like one of the pipits now that I look a bit closely. Quite a thick bill. Now, of course, I'm learning the birds up here. I'm a bit rusty on them, so we're going to learn together. I think this one might take me a little while to figure out. I'm going to have to look at my book. And very yellow legs, very thick bill. Quite a light throat. Okay, well, I'm going to try to figure out what bird this is. So while we do that, let's go back to Tristan, who's cruising around Juma.
Well, I am. I'm just cruising northwards because we're trying to see where these tracks for these lionesses finish up, because Herbie and James had them coming west of Pan, which is just on my left hand side here, and just trying to see if they haven't cut over into Torchwood or Buffelshoek, but they've walked a long way, because they've come all the way from Simambili side, crossed in from One-Eyed Pan, came down Vertel Access, along Quarantine, and then all the way up towards Buffelshoek Dam. So they've done quite a big loop this morning. Now, interestingly enough, I asked them if the guys, and one of the guys told me that there was only 4 lionesses there yesterday, so it seems like one of these lionesses has come all the way to where the pride is and then walked all the way back this way with one of the lionesses. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is Amber Eyes and the young female coming all the way this way. And now it will be interesting to see what she's up to and where she's denning. I know that they did den at some stage close to Buffelshoek Dam, and the tracks are heading up that way, so it would be interesting to know if she did. Let's just check, there's no sign of any tracks here. Nope. Luckily for us, Cheetah Cutline is a nice sort of place to look for tracks, and I'm pretty sure I just saw a track actually that has been driven over by somebody. So yes, indeed, the tracks for these lionesses are here and somebody's driven over them. So I'm going to try to see where they go to from here, but I'll have to see. Now, Lou, I know you were talking to me, but it came through in one word sort of things. I couldn't hear exactly what you were saying, so if you can repeat it for me. Ah, right. So while I see where these tracks go, let's go across to the man himself, James Henry, with some hippos at Buffelshoek Dam.
Yes, we have got some hippos at Buffelshoek Dam. They are in the dam, in the water, and although you can only see 2 of them there, there's a third. Can you see the third, Craig? There are 3 or perhaps even 4, and one of them keeps just sticking its nose out of the water and then disappearing. It's very shy. I think there are also a number of terrapins around the place which maybe look like hippo nostrils. But they got a little bit offended when we arrived here, and they started making their noise there. And now things have calmed down. They realize that we're not about to leap into the water and, cavort about on jet skis and that sort of thing, which of course would make them very upset. They don't like that. They're not fans of jet skis. Are you a fan of jet skis, Craig? You do have a motorbike.
Maybe not in a hippo-infested
Maybe not in a hippo-infested dam. Probably very good idea. Oh, Jason, no. I mean, I know we talk about how cold it is here and how freezing we are and how desperately tough it is to be out in the morning. But no, you say, have I ever seen any freezing here? No, absolutely not. The coldest temperature I've experienced at Juma was 4 degrees Celsius, which is 45 Fahrenheit. I did once have a temperature of 0 at a place called Ngala where I used to work. We got a temperature of 0 one morning there in the winter, but that was the coldest, and nothing has ever frozen over. I mean, these water holes don't even freeze, definitely won't freeze. And as I've used in order to demonstrate how mild relatively the climate is here, I love to go to the language of Xitsonga or Shangaan, which of course has got no word in it for snow. There is no word for snow at all, and in fact I don't even think there's a word for ice. No, there isn't. There's no word for ice even. So it just goes to show that they had no need for such in the language, which I think is quite interesting. In Zulu that's a bit different, because of course the Zulus were close to the mountains of the Drakensberg down south. Megan, this is not something we discuss normally live. You want to know how my tummy is feeling at the moment? Oh, well, it's making the odd gurgling noise, I suppose, but nothing too explosive at this stage. Right, I'm going to head away from these hippopotami. We're going to follow a game path down back towards home. We're quite a long way out, obviously. We're here at Buffelshoek Dam, and so we'll follow our game path away and see what we can find on our way back. We did hear some elephants on the way, and so perhaps we will have a chance to find those elephants as we go. And of course it will be very nice to show you some elephants before the end. Righty. Good. I am of course going to have to greet these very fine people on the dam wall here, and so while I do that we're going to hand you over to Tristan, who has got some cheetah tracks.
We do indeed, but I have very little confidence that we will find these lions, because right in front of me is the Buffelshoek boundary, and these tracks are still going straight towards the boundary itself. So pretty sure these lionesses are going to cross the road here, or at least head in another direction. As you can see, it's a busy road, so it's going to be difficult to know exactly where they go from here, but let's see. There's their tracks going, and straight across, I would imagine. So if I try and pull up here, Ferg, you'll be able to see what we're talking about. There we go. So you can see it going that way there. So just in the sand over there. So that's the tracks for at least one lioness. I don't see two here, but there's tracks for one lioness going out of our area and into Torchwood and Buffelshoek boundary. They cross around the corner and go around. So those are the tracks that James has followed all the way, and what we picked up on quarantine. It just shows you how far these lionesses can move sometimes when they want to, which is a little disappointing. I was hoping that we would find them lying somewhere now that the sun had come out, that they would decided maybe they would just like to sort of find an area to rest, but alas, they have gone that way down towards Torchwood. Going to be difficult to know exactly where they go from here, but let's see. There's their tracks go, which is a little disappointing. I was hoping that we would find them lying, that they would decided maybe they would just like to sort of find an area to rest, but alas, they have gone that way down towards Torchwood. So Safi, who we think you're a new viewer. Well, if you are, welcome Safi, and hope you are enjoying your time with us. Sassy, Sassy. Okay. Sorry about that. Well, welcome to the show, and I hope you are enjoying it. And you... I can't hear what Lou's saying. I'm Fluffy. Fluffy. Sorry. The comms are very, very poor, so I apologize, Fluffy. It's coming through very badly. But you do want to know whether or not lions' claws retract like a domestic cats do. Well, they don't retract. So lions and domestic cats and leopards' claws protract, which means that they physically have to exert energy through a ligament to push the claw out. The claw in a resting place is in and sheathed, and so they protract. Retraction is when you pull something in. Protraction is to push it out. So they have to push their claws out when they need them. They don't retract their claws in all the time. So they are like a domestic cat in that their claws are sheathed, but they basically push them out when they need them. The only one that you find here that doesn't do that is a cheetah. Now, cheetah's claws are permanently out, even though they are part of the big cats. And the reason why a cheetah's claws is permanently out is so that it's able to provide traction when they're sprinting at such fast speeds, and they need those, almost like a runner needs spikes. One of these athletes needs spikes. They too need the exact same thing, and so you end up with a situation where they'll use those to be able to contain themselves, well, to retain grip when running, whereas the lions and the leopards don't need that much in terms of speed and grip that they have, and so their claws stay in, and they also need their claws a lot more for gripping and holding on to prey than what the cheetah do. Cheetah will often ankle tap and trip up prey, whereas lions and leopards like to grip, and that's why they need much sharper claws than what the cheetah does. Now from here I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go. I think I might go and check around sort of Galago Pan area and see if there's anything around. So Joshua, you're wondering how often we see non-Birmingham males. I think that's what I got from you, Lou. Is that right, Ferg? Mm-hmm. Yes, non-Birmingham males in our Traverse area. Never. We don't see, I can't remember the last time we saw an unknown male in this area. Certainly not since I've been with Safari Live, and so that's not this year at all. Last year we had the Matimbas come through once or twice. We've had in fact I lie, I did see the Matimbas actually. In February I saw the Matimbas very briefly one night crossing up into Manyeleti side. So there was them, and then other than that, the Avoca males that we were chatting about earlier that have gone into Londolozi, they crossed through last year, but it's very seldom. You'll very seldom see young males flirting around here because they hear the Birmingham males calling at night, and they know that there's a big coalition in this area, and therefore they stay away. It will be a matter of time until there are younger males that come through. You wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a coalition of 4 or 5 that start arriving here and checking out what's going on as well. So it does happen from time to time, and we will sometimes see these lions moving around in this area. So for now, no, we don't ever see other males, but it is potentially possible that other males could start showing up if the Birminghams don't patrol their territory effectively, or we get a big young coalition that's willing to try and overthrow these older Birmingham males. I'm going to, like I say, head towards Galago Pan and see if maybe, just maybe, some elephants aren't around. Still no sign of fangs heard. We've been looking all over for them, and it seems like they must have gone into sort of Arathusa and then further down, because there's been no tracks since we last had them in that southwestern corner. So I don't know if they went into Hofmans or Arathusa, and then from there they could be anywhere now. So we're just going to have to be patient with fangs heard. So for those of you that are new viewers that don't know who Fang is a prominent female elephant that we see in this area. She has a tusk that grows backwards, and we had some interesting behavior from her a few days ago. So Brenda, you were actually wondering about Fang, and so she's got a prominent tusk that grows back towards her, and a few days ago she had this sort of problem. It looked like she was almost having a miscarriage, or there was some sort of issue with her, and she was not well, and she was going up and down and lying down and stretching her back legs, and discharge was coming out of her backside and also her genitals, and so it was quite a concerning sort of sighting, and a very sort of heartfelt sighting. And so we've been trying to find her since then to try and just see how she is and what's been going on, and whether or not she's in any more discomfort or if she's okay, but so far no sign at all. And the sort of the more positive side of that, and the fact that we haven't found a sign of her, is that in all likelihood she's okay, because if she was really bad and something had caused her to have a massive problem, in all likelihood she would have died from it by now, and we would have found lots of vultures and lots of signs, which there isn't any of that, which means that hopefully she's 100% okay, and she's now just sort of recovered from whatever it was, and maybe it was just a miscarriage and she's kind of carried on, and there's no sort of ill effects now afterwards. It will have been traumatic, but maybe she's just kind of worked through it and at least will be alive and still moving around. So I really do want to catch up with them soon, in the hope that we can find out what's going on. Now I'm going to probably go through a fairly sort of bad signal area, but James is just busy with the Facebook Live, and so if there's a bit of picture breakup, I do apologize with that. So there might be a little sort of freeze frame or a bit of breakup in the audio, but it shouldn't be too long. It's just through this little dip that we're heading through now. Once we're out of that dip, then we should be absolutely fine. But the lions have given us a tough afternoon, or morning should I say. lions have gone sort of southwards and into Little Gowrie, others have gone north. And I did hear a nice update that the Birminghams, all 4 of them, were actually with the 3 sticks and all the 6 cubs, and they were on a kill on Little Gowrie, and they finished that kill now, but they are moving southwards, which is a bit of a shame. I was hoping that they were going to come northwards, because they weren't actually too far from our boundary. They were probably about 400 meters to the south of the boundary, but unfortunately that's the way things go. And maybe tomorrow will be the day that they decide to come this way. Although all the sticks and cubs, I think we're going to have to see too much of them in the next little bit. I wonder if the Birminghams are hanging around with them again because of those newer sticks cubs, just to make sure that they're all alright. Now that the Nkuhuma cubs are over a year old and seemingly doing very well and are really going to be sort of getting into that age where they can almost start taking care of themselves. It'll be a few more months, but they're getting that way. And I think that's probably why the Birminghams don't spend nearly as much time with the Nkuhumas as they used to. Also coupled with the fact that the Nkuhumas are not killing a buffalo every day like they were, means that the Birminghams also having to move a little bit more to find the food that they need. So it is a sort of different dynamic, but the sticks newer cubs, I'm sure, are keeping them down in the south a lot more than what we were seeing in the beginning of the year, where they were spending a lot of time in the north and in the sort of west with the Nkuhuma pride. Other than that, quiet morning, very slow day to start. Oh, this is a big question. Mareka, you're wondering who would be the next leopard queen of Juma? I'm not 100% sure, actually. I really am hoping that it's a young female. So no matter what happens, if we could get one of the younger females, that would be absolutely perfect, because as much as I love Tundi and Shadow, and I really like to see them often, and Tundi is my favorite leopard, they are slightly older leopards. They're 10 years old, and that means that, in time they're going to be, well, not long now, they're going to be in a similar situation as Karula. They're going to be older, and there's a possibility that they're going to disappear. So it would be nice for the sort of legacy to continue, and for a young female like Shongile to really take over. So I think for me, I would love it if Shongile was, because that would just continue this whole epic story that is followed on from, Karula, following on from Safari, and so we could get this whole sort of situation going and keep up with them as they go forward and the generations continue. If not Shongile, then my other one that I would really like to see settle here would be Tiani, which is Salahesh's daughter. But I think Tiani seems like she's pushing into Londolozi quite a bit now. They've been seeing her a lot that side, so I don't think she's going to come this way, which is a bit of a shame, because she's such a beautiful leopard, and it would have been really nice to see her, because ultimately she's also sort of from the same lineage as Karula, because Safari and Salahesh's mom were sisters, so they are in some way related, so it would still be that sort of royal bloodline that would be this side. So one of those two would be my ideal two to come into this area, and hopefully they would stick around, and both of them being young females would mean that we'd get lots and lots of years of time with them. So Tiani is now approaching 3 years old, whereas Shongile, as we know, is still about a year and a half old, so, or just under a year and a half. So both of those would be leopards that would spend a lot of time here. I think Tiani is of a better age to find sort of territory in this area now. She's at the age where she's going to start mating soon and setting up a territory for herself. Shongile is still a little bit young to be actually setting up a territory, but given that there's no real other females pushing in from the north at this stage, it means that she might be able to find this territory and stay in it and just get lucky. It's not to say that Karula won't show up. Who knows? She's that kind of leopard that, the days are going, and it's more and more likely that she's no longer around, but you never know with her. She could just be somewhere, somehow in the Manyaleti, and no one's found her, and she's just going to randomly, out of nowhere, pop up somewhere, which would be pretty much like she is really. She was that kind of leopard that kind of surprised you at the best of times. So I wouldn't be surprised she does turn up again, but like we've said, every day that goes past, it's more and more likely that she's no longer with us. So, but in terms of succeeding her, one of those two females would be my bet. I'm so busy talking that I've just driven past a whole herd of elephants. Ferg, did you see them?
I was so busy, I was so enthralled by your conversation.
Were you enthralled by our conversation? Thanks, Ferg. Well, let's see now. There they are. So, Lou, you reckon Tiani? Ferg, what do you want? You've never seen Tiani, so you wouldn't really know. You would like Shongololo. Yes, it would be nice. It would be a nice sort of follow-on story, particularly with sort of Karula going missing. If she was to be the one that arrived or stayed here, it would be very cool. Now, I wonder if this isn't Short Trunk's herd. It looks like it might be, because it's just, I see 2 young ones of the right sort of size, and I see 2 adults so far. So I think it is Short Trunk's herd. Yes, there she is. Hello, girl. So this herd has been hanging around quite a bit lately. So she's a female that, as you can guess it, has a short trunk. Now the tip of her trunk is missing, and that's due to an injury, probably in all likelihood from a snare. And she's this female that's just busy feeding on the bush over here. And they have quite a small sort of herd. There's only her and another adult female, and then 2 young ones that hang around. But there you can see that shorter trunk. Good morning, girl. So, Miss Sky, you're wondering how many meters an elephant's trunk could reach. Well, I'm actually not sure, to be honest. I've never actually even thought about it or read about it, to be honest. But let's think about it. If a male's trunk... I mean, we saw earlier how high it could reach, but I suppose where do you draw the line from? Is it from where the trunk meets the head and then how far it goes from there? I think that's probably where we've got to measure from. And it also will depend on the size of the animal, because big bull elephants are going to have much bigger trunks than what you're going to see on females. So it is going to be all relative, I suppose. But I would imagine the max distance of a male to reach would be, I'm just trying to think now, when you see them, 2.5 meters, maybe? No, maybe not that long. Maybe, actually, when we think about how sort of big an elephant bull can be. What do you think, Fig? About 2 meters, eh? I would say 6 feet, somewhere just over 6 feet, 7 foot, around there. That's what I would say. Maybe there's somebody out there that has access to such statistics and can tell us exactly what's going on. Now, our herd is sitting under a torchwood tree, so I'm going to try and see if I can't get to where that torchwood tree is. There's a few rocks around here, so we need to be a little careful that we don't break Rusty. We've given Rusty and Wendy a good working out over the last few weeks, so we don't really want to damage them on a rock. So I'm going to just try to find an easy way to slide in here. Right, now we're going to try and get ourselves into position and see if we can't see this herd a little bit better. And while we do that, let's go across to Mr. Hendry himself and find out what he thinks about the legacies and which leopard will become the queen of Juma next.
Right, we are now just doing a little walking segment at the moment on a beautiful game path. And you can see our fearless leader up in front there. He is making sure that we don't get ironed by something on the way and checking out for tracks. And you can see where the animals have walked. It's the most beautiful path. Now, while we do that, of course, we must give consideration to Tristan's topic of discussion, which of course was the legacy of the great queen herself. First of all, as he said, she might pop up. Yes, she might. That is becoming more and more a hope that we all have rather than an actual possibility as the days go by. But yes, it's not impossible. It's obviously, but it's not impossible. Who is going to take over from her? I mean, I don't really have a huge amount to add to what Tristan said, because I think that Tristan is probably correct. I think that Tiani except Tiani is not from here, so Tiani's, to my mind, an outside bet. And I think what you might find, because Shongile is not quite old enough yet to take a territory, I think what you might find is that at this stage, her territory is rather just going to start to shrink. Sorry, I'm getting a little warm. So instead of this being a vacant area, I think it's just going to be encroached from both sides. And I think you'll find Shadow, who has always experienced, or certainly quite a lot, experienced pressure from the likes of Salayeshe. She might choose to come further this way. This is her natal territory. This is where she was born. She might choose to come down here a bit more. And at the same time, Tundi is going to come from the southeast, and she's already started spending much more time around here. But to me, what's also interesting about that is that Sebastian was saying to me the other day that when he and his wife used to work at Chitwa, and so he used to go and visit there quite often. When he was first here, that was when they saw Shadow and Tundi as youngsters. It was on Chitwa, it wasn't here, which means that Karula's territory has shifted quite a lot over the years, and I suspect it's got quite a lot bigger. She had an enormous territory, by my reckoning, for a female leopard of this area. It extended into the northern parts of Chitwa. It was basically the whole of Juma. It went a little bit into Torchwood. It sometimes went into Arathusa, but it was pretty much the cut line between Arathusa and here. And then it went into Biffle's Hook. So she had a vast, vast area. And I don't think that area is going to be filled by one leopard at this stage. I think it'll just get smaller from all sides, and with any luck, in the core of it, eventually Shongile will end up. So that's what I think is going to happen. And I mean, this would be much easier to actually draw for you, but I'm not going to try and do that as we walk through this grass. So that's my opinion on what's going to happen with the Queen. This territory. Yeah, so I mean, it's all very interesting, and of course it'll be fascinating to come back here in 3 months and see how things have changed. Alright, Tristan's elephants apparently have arrived at their, what I think, at their fruits that I think taste and smell like rotting dried apricots, and let's see if they enjoy them.
I agree with you, James. They are terrible, really. I don't like them at all, but the elephants seem to love them. You can see they are picking them up by the trunk loads and are shoving them in as much as they can, and even Short Trunk seems to have figured out a way to feed off these. She uses her feet and her sort of muscles of her trunk to be able to grab them every now and then, and she's not really as good as the others, but she's still figuring out a way to do it, which is absolutely amazing. So there you can see how she's missing the sort of tip to it. But you are a clever girl, you know that. To be able to do what you do is amazing. It just shows you how intelligent and how adaptable animals can be to what goes on to them, and how the sort of instinct to survive and to thrive in life far outweighs their sort of disabilities or anything like that. Now, quickly getting back to our sort of so Violet, you're wondering if the elephants are named individually or only the herd. Well, watch, there's going to be an elephant pushing the tree. There we go. Hold on. Are you going to push for us? No, you're trying to reach. So we actually don't really name any of the sort of elephants or the herds other than these ones that have sort of special characters in them. So the only reason this particular herd has any sort of semblance of us knowing who they are is because of the female with the shorter trunk. That's only the reason why we know her, and we've just affectionately called her Short Trunk's herd, or Short Trunk herself, because of that fact. Fang has also just gotten a name because she's unusual in that she has this tusk that grows backwards, but that's really about it in terms of the herd structures. The rest of the herds that come through here, we might recognize them, but they don't have names or anything like that, so we don't name them in any way because they're so transient and they don't really sit here for long periods of time. They move in and out quite a bit. Some of the bull elephants do have names as well. We've got Daryl, which is Taylor's favorite elephant, and I actually have not seen Daryl, so I'm not sure where he is at the moment. I'm sure he's all over the place. He seems to roam quite a big territory, definitely the whole of the Sabi Sands. And so there's a number of other bulls that we've had that kind of get affectionate little nicknames here and there, but it's not really actually naming. Hi guys. What you doing? Are you talking to us? It's just, there's something very special about being with elephants, and especially when they're around you like this. Lauren from Illinois, you're wondering if this short trunk female that's just crossing behind us has trouble picking up smaller things like the fruits that they are trying to feed on? Well, most definitely, it's really not going to be easy at all. She has, or elephants in general have these trunks that have two little tips to them, and those act like fingers, and they then can use those to pick up even the most minute of objects. And she doesn't have those tips anymore. Unfortunately, those are gone, which means that her ability to feed is really substantially less than what the others are. So she's going to struggle with that, and that's why she'll have to use her feet and drag things towards her feet, and then use leverage to be able to pick it up and turn her trunk around it. And so yes, feeding for her is not going to be as easy as it is for these guys. These guys, all like the male that we're seeing now, have it a lot easier. But you can see this male broke off the right sort of tusk quite heavily there, and he's got his left side still sort of exposed. And look how they use their trunk to search. You see how they're smelling? So they're actually not looking for the fruit, they're trying to sniff for it. And then when they smell it, that trunk acts like a little vacuum cleaner, and it just picks them up, and then they pop it into their mouth. He's a little bit small to be shaking the tree. I thought he was going to try, but he's a young male, so when he gets a bit older, he'll have learnt it, and if he spends some time with the older bulls, they'll show him how to be able to shake that tree and make more of the fruits fall down. So Charlie, you say if the elephants could reach so high, could they potentially be electrocuted on the electric lines that we see running around this area? Well, they don't reach that high, and luckily for the elephants, because yes, they could be electrocuted. Funnily enough, and this is a very random story and not really elephant related, but it will tie into what we're talking about. But down in the south of the reserve, we have the same sort of electrical lines, and lions were chasing a giraffe the one day, and the bull giraffe ran straight into the electric line, and it killed itself. It basically hit it and it died. So if the elephants could reach it, then yes, it would be a big problem. But luckily they are tall enough that they can't actually reach, and so then we don't have the situation where we have to worry about our elephants being electrocuted from that. You'll also find on all of these electric lines, the pole structure themselves are wrapped in a metal sheath, and that's because the ellies otherwise rub through the wooden pole and break the wooden poles, and then the electric lines come falling down. And it was in about, I think it was 2012, on Gari Main, which is that main road on the southern side where we were driving this morning. There was a massive bull elephant that walked around in that area, and he for some reason took a liking to the poles, and he must have pushed down, I think he must have pushed down about 7 or 8 of those poles, and there was just electric cables lying all over the road. There was poles broken all over the place. So I don't know what got into him, but he just caused absolute havoc. It was a massive bull elephant as well, and we were very fortunate in that actually nobody got hurt or anything like that, because can you imagine if somebody had been in that sighting and this big elephant bull had pushed this down and this electric cable had fallen on a car or something like that. So got to be a bit careful around the ellies, but they don't reach high enough to touch the actual wires themselves, thank goodness. There we go. Is that fruit tasty, my boy? So Starlight, you're asking what bird you are hearing chirping in the background. Well, it's a fork-tailed drongo, and it's sitting right on the top of this torchwood tree. So I don't know if you can see it on the top left there, Ferg. I'm going to try to point it out to you. So somewhere around there would be where it is sitting. You should find a fruit there somewhere, and then next to the fruit is the fork-tailed drongo. Maybe a little bit up to the right, maybe a little bit. A little bit further up. There we go. On the right hand side of the frame, where the fruit is. There you can see a fruit of a torchwood, and then behind it is a little black bird that is busy chirping away, and that is called the fork-tailed drongo, and they are generally around these elephants, and the reason why they follow the elephants is because the elephants disturb insects as they walk, and then the drongo can fly down and grab those insects. Now these fork-tailed drongos are naughty little birds. They are they're not ventriloquists, sorry, that's the wrong word. They are mimics, and so they're able to make the calls of a lot of the other different birds, as well as some of the mammals, and particularly the alarm calls for birds and mammals. Now that fruit is in the perfect place to hide its face, so I do apologize about that, but they will even imitate things like meerkats and mongoose and their alarm calls. And so what they do is they wait and they see for somebody to grab some sort of an insect or food item, and then their alarm call. And for that, for what reason? what's here that you want? So our Ellie bull behind us decided that he, for some reason, wanted to shout at us. Maybe he didn't want the attention on the drongo. What's underneath here that you want? Oh boy. Yes, yes. Okay, off you go now. Boys will be boys. And those are the typical response from a young bull elephant. They often are like that when they come close and ears out and they try and intimidate you. And then you can see if you just sit your ground and sit still, then eventually they lose interest and they start walking away a little bit. But I've forgotten what I was saying. The drongo, yes. The drongo will basically make the alarm call, and that particular animal will drop whatever it's eating, and then the drongo comes down and collects it. So they are very, very naughty. I think we're probably going to leave our Ellie herd now because they are going down into quite a thick area, but it was quite nice just to spend a little bit of time with them. And so while we do that, let's go across to James Henry, who's slowly mobilizing, or getting mobile with his lower limbs towards breakfast.
I am locomoting towards breakfast, everybody, and of course my leave, which is quite exciting. And we're heading towards what I think is possibly my favourite piece of game path on this reserve. And it's just around the... is it? I think it's just around here. It may have come too far south. No, it is definitely around here. And you can see that seasons are changing. We've got here an old pan that would have been hugely valuable in the summertime, and you can see elephant tracks in it, and there would have been buffalo and warthog and all sorts of things that came past here. Now, to my mind, this is how some kind of natural water was distributed. So in the summertime, although these riverbeds like the great Umluamati, on whose banks we now stand, would seldom have flowed full time, what you would have had was along their banks these temporary pans that would have held water all the time. And then as soon as the winter time came, animals would have moved out of these areas, and they would have moved on to the fringes of the Sand River, the Sabi River, maybe up to the Timbavati River. No, Timbavati also started dry at round about now. And these areas would have been devoid of animal life, and off to the west, of course, they would have gone up into the mountains. Not devoid of animal life, but they would have been far less rich in things like elephants, far less rich in wildebeest, probably slightly less rich in buffalo, and much like the Mara at the moment is a place where there aren't a huge number of wildebeest, there are still those resident antelope species. All the lion prides are still there, the lions and the predators, which are territorial, they remain. But the thickness of game on the ground would have become that much less. And I think it would have been very similar here. And one of the things that would have sustained the animals during the wet season would have been these temporary pans that form all the way along the dry riverbeds. And that system now, of course, no longer pervades because we pump water. And because we pump water, we've completely altered the way of animals move, and in so doing, we've completely altered the way that the vegetation grows. And that's important because often we talk about how things used to look, how they should look, and well, that's just it's just how things are, and for us to sort of pontificate about how things once were and how things should be is almost impossible, given how irrevocably things have changed. Kylie, you're asking what the best tasting plant is. The best tasting plant out here is unquestionably the marula fruit. The marula fruit is sweet, it is full of vitamin C, it is delicious, even the nut is very nice to eat. Unfortunately, it is now finished. I mean, it finished sort of in the end of February. We didn't have any marulas anymore, but they are by far the most delicious, Kylie. Everything else out here, I've got to tell you, is pretty bland. And there are one or two sort of aromatic herby type plants that people used to cook with, but not many. There are not many at all. And those that there are often, if you try and cook with them, they leave a really strong kind of oily, it's overpowering taste to any of the food. And so you find when people come out here and they say, well, tell us a little bit about African cuisine, and there's not a huge amount to say from an area like this. Soil is very nutrient poor, and that means, of course, that the variety of fruits and vegetables that have developed in areas known for their cuisine, India, parts of Africa, certainly up in Morocco, the Arabic parts, up around the Mediterranean parts there. We just don't have that around here because the suite of foods available to people and the flavors available to people just that much less. I'll just look down through here. Is this not magnificent? It's made infinitely more pleasant, I think, and dare I say it, nostalgic by Herbert walking down through the path. And it's a bank between two parts of the river, and I just love it. This is one of my favorite game paths, and at the end of it there are some impalas, which is quite nice. We can go and see if we can find them. Happiness better be grateful for this bottle that I've lugged around the place, and, I might add, tasted for her benefit. I don't think she's going to drink it all. I hope she doesn't. Alrighty, we're going to have to change the battery, I think, on the camera, so we're going to link to Tristan now.
Well, at least we have a spare battery and that Craig is able to change it. Oh, wait, hang on, what's this? Those are tracks for a leopard, which would be from Tingana last night, because that's exactly where he walked, and I heard about these being called in earlier, but I just got a surprise as I came around the corner and saw these little footprints coming up the road. But that was from Tingana last night when he made his last minute appearance, as he loves to do. And that kind of brings me back to the leopard sort of story that we were talking about, and that in all likelihood it's going to be Shadow and Thandi are just going to grow their territories, and it's all going to kind of collapse into themselves. But it would be nice just to have one of the young females. But I reckon that we're going to see, exactly like James said, we're going to see a slow expansion or shifting of both Shadow and Thandi coming up and filling these voids, and then maybe, just maybe, a leopard from the north might shift down towards this northern area. This territory that Karula holds is rather large, and so it means that can fit quite a few females inside here. And well, you'll find that Shongila's territory will probably be very, very small to start, but as she gets bigger, and so females like Thandi and Shadow get older, she's going to be able to then start pushing them back a little bit, and her territory will then start to expand. The thing is with her is that she's also got a lot of space to her south. There's no female currently in the south. So Judy, you're wondering how much of Karula's territory is available. I think that's what I got from it. Sorry, Lou, you're breaking up very badly. But in terms of what is available currently, do other females know if her territory is available? No, probably. Well, I suppose yes and no. So knowing that if a female not from this area, she won't know. So like a female like Tiani would have no idea because she's never been this side. She doesn't know what goes on here. She's not going to be sure. But females like Shadow and Thandi, most definitely, they're not hearing vocalizing and they're not picking up a scent mark anymore. Remember that Karula would have gone over and over and she would have scent marked a lot of these areas and tried to make sure that she kept her boundaries of her territory well marked. Those scents are now starting to dissipate and disappear after rain and time, so the chemical signature is getting less and less and less. And so females like Thandi and Shadow are going to move, and they're going to see that there's no smell now anymore, and they're going to be able to then keep shifting until they do pick up a smell of something going on. So you'll find that they definitely will be aware that they can start expanding their territory because there's no active marking going on by another leopard. So that's why they'll be able to tell. But in terms of other females far afield, no, they won't have any idea whatsoever. They will have not been sure that Karula's disappeared then because they've never actually been up here, so they wouldn't have even known what this area holds. It's a really kind of interesting concept, is that there's all these animals living and they probably have never ever in their lives sort of seen any of these areas, and let alone know what they look like. So it's quite a sort of strange thing, and they will move, and Tiani will distribute, because where she is at the moment, she's going to get squeezed heavily, and it's just going to be interesting to see which way she goes. Does she push further east or does she go south? Southwards, she's going to have a lot of problems because she's going to have Moya, Ingrid Dam female that are both hanging around that southern boundary. Then you've got On the western side, you've got Insele, so she's going to have to, in all likelihood, start pushing a little bit further east, and maybe between her and Shangila, they're going to start taking off that Kwatile's old territory, so that territory that was sort of the south of Juma and a little bit to the southwest of Juma. So that would have been where Kwatile hung out, and there really is no leopard that's really spending much time there. Shadow moved in a bit, but she's kind of more Arathusa, southern part of Juma. She doesn't really spend too much time to the south of Hofmans and south of Arathusa itself, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But it's crazy, it's so interesting also the difference in what's gone on over the last few years. When I first started at Chitwa, the density of leopard in the east was higher than the density of the leopards in the west of this particular area. Now it's changed completely. The western side has got a higher density and the eastern side a little bit less. Right, it's come to that time where unfortunately it's time for us to sort of wind down the show, and also time for James Henry to walk you through his last few footsteps on Juma for a while. So let's go across to him.
I'm not really that upset, and I'm not upset because I'm coming back. So although there is a sense of nostalgia about the morning, it's a positive move, you know. We're going away, we're coming back again. And I keep telling myself that, and I packed up yesterday and I set to the task with gusto, and I thought, well, this will be nice, and I'll get rid of the stuff I don't want, which I did. And the more I packed, the worse and worse I felt. And it's the change, you see. It's the change that I think makes us feel so uneasy. But it was a very positive feeling of unpositiveness, if you know what I mean. And that unpositive feeling of, or the positiveness about the unpositiveness, was how much, obviously, I have enjoyed living here. I took down my little golf net from outside my window, and Craig leant on his windowsill and peered out, said, "What are you doing?" He had noticed that there was one there before, of course, but now he has, and now it's gone. And it was all just kind of, it showed me how much I had settled over here over the last 2 years, and it made me feel very sort of homely about the place, which is great. And I know that many of you feel the same. I've no doubt that you are going to have that same feeling, though, when we go to, or when we spend an extended period in the Mara, when we've got a regular feed coming out of there, when you start to learn all about the characters that we have there, and we learn a whole new ecosystem. And I always find that when I go to a new place, especially a wilderness area, which can be quite intimidating, and they can be intimidating because there are things around that you don't understand, that are potentially unsafe, potentially dangerous, unfamiliar. Things are unfamiliar. And I always find when I go to a new wilderness area, that feeling is amplified, and it takes a while for it to sort of go away, to calm down, and then to be replaced by a feeling of, ah, yes, this is nice, this is homish. And well, that's how it happened to me here at Juma. Alright everyone, that is going to be it from the sunrise safari today. There will be a sunset safari. I will be absent today, of course. However, Taylor will be on it. I think Ali will also be on it, so that'll be great. And the crew at Juma, I'm going to wish them a very fond farewell and an adieu, because I will see you, of course, all in roughly 3 months. So until then, I say bye-bye from Juma, and I will see the rest of you in 2 weeks from the Mara. Until then, bye-bye.